Where did the Easter Bunny come from? Notice, the Easter Bunny had its origin in pre-Christian fertility lore. It has never had religious symbolism bestowed on its festive usage. However, the bunny has acquired a cherished role in the celebration of Easter as the legendary producer of Easter eggs for children in many countries. But the truth of this custom does not stop people from decorating their lawns and houses with Easter bunnies every spring. Even in modern times, rabbits have remained common symbols of fertility. While their rapid rate of reproduction is well known, there's a problem. Rabbits do not lay eggs. While both are fertility symbols, there's no logical way to connect them. In a world filled with pagan tradition, truth and logic are lost. There is nothing Christian about fertility symbols. Merging sex symbols with Christianity makes an already idolatrous practice worse. The true history of rabbits and eggs is completely unknown to unsuspecting, trusting little children. Adults can so easily lead to think them special. It may seem beautiful, religious, and deeply moving to participants, but God has forbidden His people from devising their own religious customs and ideas. He's not interested in what people may personally feel or think is right. He is interested in who cares what He thinks is right. As far as God is concerned, ancient sun worship, dressed up in Easter finery and bonnets, is just modern packaging of a very old, idolatrous, pagan custom. Is it a light thing to God that many millions keep Easter? Jesus, who is God, made a stunning statement, but how many believe it? Notice, but in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Christmas, Easter, and other holidays are not commands of God, but rather traditions, commandments of men. Much additional proof, biblical and historical, exists proving Easter is not permitted by God. To learn about the customs surrounding this holiday, read our thorough booklet, The True Origin of Easter. You will also wish to read another that's related. Christ's resurrection was not on Sunday. It explains how and why the incorrect, unbiblical Sunday resurrection idea came into use as a means of subtly endorsing Sunday keeping in place of keeping God's Sabbath. Next, let's examine Valentine's Day, known as the world's holiday of love. Surely celebrating a festive holiday like Valentine's is harmless. And surely the God who gives us life, food, drink, and the ability to think for ourselves approves of the holiday for lovers to exchange gifts. Let's see. Innocent and harmless as Valentine's may appear, its traditions and customs originate from two of the most sexually perverted pagan festivals of ancient history, the Lupercalia and the feast day of Juno Februata. To the Romans, February was sacred to Juno Februata, the goddess of Febris, or fever, of love and of women and marriage. On February 14th, billets, which were small pieces of paper with the name of a teenage girl written on it, were put into a container. Boys would then choose one billet at random. The boy and the girl whose name was drawn would become a couple, joining in erotic games at feasts and parties celebrated throughout Rome. After the festival, they would remain sexual partners for the rest of the year. This custom was observed in the Roman Empire for centuries. Valentine's Day, from this Satan-influenced world, is designed to appeal to fleshly, carnal desires, or, as the Bible calls them, the works of the flesh. Take time to read Galatians chapter 5, verses 19 to 21. Does God want His people partaking of candy and cards or any customs associated with this day? Does He approve of this? Notice how specific was His warning to ancient Israel, and why His warning. When the Lord your God shall cut off the nations from before you, and you succeed them and dwell in their land, take heed to yourself that you be not snared by following them. and that you inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. You shall not do so unto the Lord your God, for every abomination to the Lord which he hates have they done unto their gods. Read and reread this passage until it sinks in. Christmas, Easter, and Valentine's are all attempts to whitewash customs and observances of pagan gods and idols by Christianizing them. For more, read our thorough article, The Truth Behind St. Valentine's Day. What about New Year's? What could be wrong with celebrating the start of the upcoming year? What's wrong with ringing out the old and bringing in the new? The truth will surprise you. The Bible reveals God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. The Greek word used for confusion also means instability, disorder, commotion, and tumult, words that perfectly describe New Year's history, which is as confusing and chaotic as the holiday itself. For thousands of years, men kept changing the beginning of their new year from spring to fall, from March 1 to January 1, and in some cases December 25th, back to March 25th, then to January 1st again. Notice, January 1 was restored as New Year's Day by the Gregorian calendar, AD 1582, immediately adopted by Roman Catholic countries. Other countries slowly followed suit. Scotland, 1660, Germany and Denmark, about 1700, England, 1752, Sweden, 1753, and Russia, 1918. Even today, nations cannot agree on this date. Notice, Chinese New Year is celebrated officially for a month beginning in late January or early February, and the Muslim New Year falls on the first day of the month of Muharram and commemorates the date of the Hijrah, July 16th, 622, on the Gregorian calendar. Since the Muslim year is a lunar one consisting of only 354 days, the commencement of the new year fluctuates widely by the Western calendar. This is what happens when people rely on their own judgment rather than simply believing God. Great numbers lose inhibition on New Year's. They make noise, get drunk, overeat, and often have illicit sex, sometimes with strangers. Common sense can disappear in pursuit of outright sin. The God of the Bible said this to ancient Israel about the false gods they would encounter in the land he gave them. You shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, lest they make you sin against me. Their gods will surely be a snare unto you. This certainly pictures New Year's and the other holidays we have seen. Nowhere does God in His Word command New Year's celebration. To learn why true Christians do not get caught up in this day, read our eye-opening article, Why Christians Don't Celebrate New Year's. Then there's Halloween. Americans spend $2.5 billion every year on this second largest holiday besides Christmas. Is this just a harmless, happy childhood activity or something very different? Its traditions, customs, and practices are rooted in a past much darker, more sinister, and more demonic than you can know. On the night of October 31st, the ancient Celts, after harvesting and storing their crops for the winter, began their annual fall festival. The Encyclopedia Britannica reveals, quote, Samhain, originally pronounced Samhain, Celtic for end of summer, one of the most important and sinister calendar festivals of the Celtic year. At Samhain, held on November 1st, the world of the gods was believed to be made visible to mankind, and the gods played many tricks on their mortal worshippers. It was a time fraught with danger, charged with fear, and full of supernatural episodes. Sacrifices and propitiations of every kind were thought to be vital, for without them, the Celts believed they could not prevail over the perils of the season or counteract the activities of the deities. Samhain was an important precursor to Halloween, end of quote.